Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Professional Interpersonal Development Podcast, where we explore the human condition and perspectives in STEM, academia, and industry. I'm your host, Martin French, an advisor at IEEE UofT, and I'm here with a very special guest, the current branch chair of IEEE UofT, Gaurav Ranganath. Gaurav, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, Martin. Thanks for having me. Super excited to do this. But yes, I am going to my third year of computer engineering at the University of Toronto and hoping to specialize in software. I am originally from Brampton, Ontario, the greatest city on the planet.
I'm from Mississauga myself, so
Yeah.
got a bit of a rivalry.
Yes, good time. But the Peel District School Board always unites us, of course.
Absolutely. PDSB all the way.
Yep.
So you're actually an ECE at UofT, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Mm-hmm. And you started in ECE?
No, I started in EngSci when I first got here.
What told you to switch out? What gave you the push?
Honestly, it was I really wasn't the content that I was looking for. When I was sitting in that Civ 102 lecture learning about free-stress concrete, I kind of knew that this isn't as in-depth as I wanted to go, for sure. Civ 102 is kind of a very specific example because, sometimes you'll never touch that again. Even calculus, going into those derivatives and finding like the real theory behind things, it really wasn't what I was looking for from an educational basis. It also just my own mental health and like the time and the pressure. It was very overwhelming for me for sure. And I thought that I could thrive in another type of engineering.
I see.
I didn't know which one, so I didn't. To be safe, I switched after first semester actually, which is kind of uncommon. And I went to track one and spent the half semester there, full semester there, and yeah.
Now you moved into ECE once you sort of developed that the feeling for it. So why ECE then?
It was definitely when I was in track one. It wasn't anything particularly in track one or the education that influenced my decision. It was things I was doing on my own time. So I got into web development pretty early. As soon as I switched out of EngSci, I had so much time. Yeah, no, that did really make a difference. So I explored interests that I wanted to explore, and I just love software. The process of building something from your computer was so enticing to me, and that's why I wanted to go into ECE.
Yeah, it's definitely a beautiful thing that you get to sort of have time for things that you may be more interested in doing. I will admit, I'm an EngSci too. I went through both years, and I'm still an EngSci. I haven't dropped out yet. But yeah, it's very, very time consuming, and it doesn't give you a whole lot of play in terms of things that you want to do on your own. But it's definitely good that you're able to find this sort of niche, this software route that you're able to go down. With respect to that, you had your own personal projects, right? Could you tell us a bit about the first couple that you started with?
Yeah, I remember I tried out a bunch of teams when I first got out of EngSci. One of the first ones was Blue Sky Solar Racing. And I had nothing to do with the actual car. I was doing fundraising for them, and they wanted me to build a website. So, the reason they wanted me to build a website because I lied on my resume and said I knew HTML, CSS, which I thought I knew, but I really didn't. So I bought I think a $15 course on Udemy and grinded that out. And it took me an embarrassing amount of time to build a simple web page, a month or so, but that was my first project. And after that, I started going to a lot of hackathons, and it took me I think it took me 2 or 3, but by my third one, it was TO Hacks. I managed to actually win that one. And from web development to TO Hacks, the growth that I experienced was immense. So from that first simple web page, I went to developing a web service called Akeso, which is basically a medical diagnostics tool that uses computer vision to identify different illnesses. We managed to work off 3 data sets from Kaggle. I believe these were Parkinson's disease, and then blood cancer, leukemia. And that's those are the extent of my projects, and a little stuff in between to better my skills. Mostly courses, just
absolutely
online. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you just gave me a lot of stuff to unpack there. So let's talk a bit
Oh
about the
yeah.
timeline for those projects, because I don't imagine you did them all in like, 1 month after the other.
Oh no,
Or
it took me a year
Mhm.
of like developing my skills to get there.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Hmm.
that's phenomenal. So in that situation where the club, well, I mean, you lied to the club, but technically you didn't really lie because you delivered a website at the end of the day,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
for
That's
sure.
the main idea. But in that sort of situation, how did you know to sort of reach out and look for courses on this sort of topic? And how did you know that, I should spend $15 on Udemy, or you just said, Coursera wasn't right for me, or YouTube all the way, baby, or something like that?
Yeah, so it's definitely on a demand basis. So if they didn't prompt me to create that website in the first place, I never would have bought a course. But are you asking about how to select resources, or why I kind of selected that one?
So the question is, and usually what happens is that people sort of, so yeah, the question is focusing mostly on the idea that you need to acquire a certain skill.
Yep.
The question was, how did you know where to get the resources for that skill?
Mm. Oh yeah, no, this was a great one. I think it's definitely mentorship that helped me find the right tools for the job. There was a guy on the team. I don't know if I should say his name or not, but he's very private.
Yeah,
he uh, he took me one on one and really worked me through the process. He told me exactly what I need to do. Finding that tutorial and purchasing it was my own decision. I like to buy courses because putting in that money kind of makes forces you to finish the course, if you know what I mean.
absolutely. Sunk cost.
Yeah, I know. I feel some people might call me spoiled or like wasting money, but to be
No,
honest, everything like when I financially dedicate myself to something, I'm definitely more intent on finishing it. So
hmm
that's my strategy so far.
yeah, man's from Brampton needs some kind of motivation. So
Yeah, exactly,
I'm not gonna
exactly.
lie to you. I've used Coursera to look at materials, but I've never been able to follow through on actually completing a course because of that reason. There is nothing tying
Yeah.
me to it. And when you put money into it, oh, now
Mhm.
I spent $15. I could have gotten a Harvey's. Now I have to finish this
Yeah,
course.
for
So
sure, for sure. And Coursera courses are expensive too if you want the certificate. So
yeah,
it just adds to the motivation to get that done.
no, absolutely. That's definitely good. So about this imaging
Mhm.
application that you developed, was it within a team of a couple of colleagues, or what sort of started with that? Where was the impetus from?
Yeah, sure. So it was two of my friends. One of them was from my fraternity, and he's been a great mentor to me throughout my career at college. And the other one was just a friend I'd met actually also through my fraternity. So yeah, those connections really helped me out there. And I was less experienced on the machine learning side when I first got there, but definitely picked a lot of the stuff up. My main role in that was developing the back end of the website in terms of setting up the server. We used Azure for cloud computing, and also did all the front end.
I see. Definitely good opportunities, and definitely leveraging those connections, because that's a huge thing. That's, to be quite frank, the main
Mhm.
reason why I came to UofT was because of the connections. Uh,
Yep,
just
for sure. Yeah.
overreaching connections, the connections to industry, things like that. So
Hmm.
it's great to hear this story over and over again. Um, but there is one thing that's very interesting that I find. You were
Hmm.
an EngSci, went into Track 8, ECE, but behind all this, you were also in a fraternity.
Yes.
I
Yes.
find that particularly interesting because I wouldn't be able to tell that just by, having a conversation with you. But, well, I asked the question. So how did you get into the fraternity?
Well, me and you met at Fiji like the first time. I don't know if you remember or not. It was at the EngSci frat party. We were on the stairs.
I thought
But
I thought you were actually part of computer chapter at that point. Oh, so just for some context for the people listening, there is this engineering science frat party that occurs occasionally. I'm not too sure if it's reoccurring. I think it happened my year and the year before. Coronavirus may cancel it this year, but hopefully there'll be something online or something cool that you guys can do together.
Mhm.
But yeah, there was a frat party for engineering science students, and I met Gaurav there before. At the time, I thought he was just part of computer chapter.
Yeah. No, I actually wasn't even part of IEEE at that point. I joined at the very end of first year. But as into how I got involved, the fraternity that I'm part of, Phi Gamma Delta, it actually exclusively used to be engineering 50 years ago. We went under Sigma Alpha Epsilon, it's the School of Practical Sciences moniker. And they have it's a very, very strong membership in engineering. And it was one of my friends that brought me over and showed off what they had to offer. And honestly, it wasn't about the connections at that point. It was literally right after I switched out of EngSci. And for anyone who switched after a semester first year, you have to repeat all the courses that everyone's taken in the first semester in track one. So like my classes, I think were me and like 10 other people who either switched or didn't pass the first time, and the prof. And no one wants to socialize in those classes. They're pretty boring and you don't really get to meet people. So that community really helped me get through the process, and I made some very valuable friendships and connections that have helped me out a lot.
Yeah, that's definitely a very beautiful thing that you're able to reach out and sort of develop your social skills and create your network through your fraternity. So there is some negative stigma surrounding fraternities in general. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think they're definitely valid. A lot of the stigma comes from the activity that happens in the States. Thing is, Canadian fraternities are extremely, extremely different from that whole vibe they got going down there. We're a lot more conservative. We do a lot more philanthropy, and we don't. We're just more. I feel, because I've had time to interact with the other fraternities. We're a lot less crazy than they are, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I've definitely had like stigma to me, and I don't actively go around saying like, "Oh, I'm in a frat, I'm so cool" or whatever.
Well, I mean, definitely not. I didn't even know. So that's a bit
but
telling.
anyone else that has that stigma, it's just, you got to ignore it, and you got to like be sure why you're there in the first place. And my reason is always because the guys there welcome me so openly, and they've taught me so many things, and it's really helped me develop just life skills in general.
Yeah, it's definitely great. Definitely a beautiful thing, because I even recall during the engineering science frat party that we had, there was a couple of members who were actually working on their homework and like completing assignments and also doing their projects during the party. They just like take a couple of seconds to go dance and head back to their computers. So that was very interesting. It was very funny.
Yeah, no, to be honest, the partying is a thing I dislike the most.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you ask any member of any fraternity, like working those parties is like, we don't have any fun. We have to make sure people are safe. I was risk manager for my last year at the fraternity, and that meant a lot of first aid knowledge, assembling like safety kits. There's a lot of boring stuff that happens behind the scenes that no one really acknowledges.
Yeah, but they're definitely extremely valuable skills, especially when the whole phrase "shit hits the fan." We need somebody who's able to jump into action.
For sure, for sure. It definitely teaches you about responsibility and how to deal with certain social situations.
Mm-hmm. So your pathway through university has been rather non-standard from jumping different programs.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you a bit about this. Have you ever experienced this thing known as imposter syndrome throughout your degree?
Oh, definitely, 100%. Yeah, that's pretty much all of EngSci in 2. Yeah, it's difficult when the kid beside you is like doing these advanced integrals on day one, and then you don't know what integration is at all. You've never seen definition. I didn't go through any regional programs other than the enhanced gifted program, which is just normal school, really. Yeah. And in the Ontario curriculum, they don't teach integration at that point. So you really question is like, am I smart enough for this? Can I actually do it? And I think everyone, no matter how smart you are, experiences this at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Because we're both from the Peel District School Board, I actually went through the same sort of thing because we didn't do integration at all. I was also in the enhanced learning program, which once again doesn't actually amount to anything.
Yep.
It's just like taking all the people who did really well and then putting them into one cohort, basically. But so the average is a lot higher, but it sometimes was not that great for certain students because there's a lot of competition. Even if it wasn't direct, it was more so background, like, oh, I did horrible on this test. Meanwhile, he shows a 95 or something like that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think back then we thought like an 80 was like a bad grade.
Yeah. 80 was essentially failing.
Yeah. I don't know. I think my experience with the enhanced learning program was great. There definitely was competition, but I have to say it was all friendly. We were all supporting each other throughout the process, and we went from literally like grade 6 all the way to grade 12 together in the same classroom. So we had like unbreakable connections, and they're still my best friends today.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Maintaining high school connections can be quite difficult sometimes, but
Oh yeah,
to
sure.
carry them over into university
Mm-hmm.
and just have them in your back pocket, it's at the end of the day, it's all about networking too. Because
Mm-hmm.
wherever they go, that they're going to be doing something very valuable or meaningful. So glad
Yeah,
to be on
for
the side to
100%.
help.
Yeah.
So when you joined IEEE, why did you join it?
I'll be honest. A lot of people have some great stories. Mine was I saw a post on Facebook. It seemed to be a really cool club. I applied, and fortunately, I was fortunate enough to be given an opportunity to join. There really is no other reason beyond that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny or interesting rather because you're one of the most powerful associates we had at the time in a computer chapter. I'd seen the work you've done for Quinn and Linda, who were the computer chapter chairs at the time, and I thought, if anybody's going to be in a new position of leadership, I figured it would be Gaurav, and here we are. Now you're
Oh,
branch chair.
thank you. Yeah. I will say like even though I didn't join for any necessarily like powerful reason, like the experience I've had as in the club has been phenomenal. It's been some of the most memorable times I've had at university.
Mm-hmm. So throughout your years,
Mhm.
tell me a bit about the highlight of your second year, rather.
The highlight of my second year.
What's the most interesting thing that occurred? We'll start with academia first. It
Mhm.
occurred in your courses or the course projects and so on.
For sure, yeah. I gotta say, academia strictly, I think the coolest thing that happened to me was for sure the Google Maps project, the
Mm-hmm.
297 project we do in ECE. And the reason for that was just because, like throughout your life, when you're dreaming to be a software engineer, you never really do any huge projects that take more than I want to say a month, like maximum. But working on this project for 4 months on the same thing and on something like this complicated, like it really showed me what I was capable of and how to apply the skills I've learned throughout my time at university.
Yeah, I've also heard about that project too. It's quite intense from what I hear.
Yeah, yeah, for
But,
sure. Honestly, I think some people, I honestly think it's an over-exaggerated project in terms of difficulty.
mhm.
Um,
But I feel like it's a lot of consistent work, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure. And like honestly, the hardest part of that project for me at least wasn't even the code. It was the team component to it, like making sure
Mm.
everyone was doing what they were doing, supporting each other, and getting through it.
Yeah, absolutely. In engineering science, we do have the Aero 201, which is now practice 3, I believe.
Yep, yep.
Basically, I found that the most difficult part of it wasn't anything to do with technical. It was purely just team based, basically, just working with your teammates, sort of organizing things together and making sure we're on the same page. But yeah, I can definitely see that. And see, the thing about that project, the Google Maps project that you had to do, it's actually more applicable now as opposed to building a robot, say, in engineering science. But have you sort of found that you can transfer the skills either from your web development or transfer the skills of the Google Map onward to your the application you developed?
Yeah, for sure. 100%. I think most of it's a mental thing, to be honest, because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people going into the Google Maps project who didn't have prior software experience, they for sure had a harder time believing that they could do it. You know what I mean? But when you do any project in software and you've sifted through the documentation, you kind of know the process, how to Google things, the next project just becomes that much easier. Like I remember struggling with classes in high school, not because they were hard. I just thought there was this foreign concept that I could never master.
Yeah, like object-oriented programming classes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, if I want to learn a new library, it takes me, I don't know, 30 minutes of reading through documentation, and I can start something in another 10 minutes. So
Yeah,
it's like,
definitely.
mhm.
So one of my mentors, he always says like, if you're ever going to learn something, just work through examples and hit examples hard. Keep doing examples over and over again. And I think that sort of applies in this case too. If you
Mhm.
actually want to start doing stuff and implementing things, that's the best way to learn. So,
Oh, yeah, yeah, I think so for sure. Yeah. I'm a big fan of tutorials, even though they're not related to the project directly, just doing it to get the gist of things always helped me.
mm-hmm. I've also found some cases where the tutorial itself is actually the answer to the problem I'm
Oh,
having anyway. So it's
that gets tricky because sometimes I rely on them too much, and then I just kind
yeah,
of don't know what certain things do. So I think it's always good to know how to get like a basic, in-depth like experience.
definitely. So let's talk a little bit about your connections to Microsoft. How is that
Mhm.
going on?
Oh yeah, for sure. It was actually because of that project, Akeso, that I did at that hackathon that led me
Hmm.
to my student partnership with Microsoft. Basically, what had happened was the keynote speaker. I'm pretty sure I can mention her name, Piali Day. She's
Hmm.
she's amazing. She helps students do whatever they can. And I reached out to her after because I wanted to write an article about my experiences. I also really enjoy writing in general. And she mentored me through the process. She looked at every draft, every revision until I was ready to publish it. And afterwards, she asked me if I'd be interested in applying to a partnership with Microsoft. And I took the opportunity. I did a little video interview with her, and yeah, that led to some great things in collaboration with IEEE, actually.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's definitely a beautiful thing. Your whole story started in university. You got that club that you're part of, their website up, and you went to do hackathons thereafter. And because of the hackathon, now you're a Microsoft student partner because of the application that you created. So it's definitely a very like cascading nice effect that happened
Yeah, for
throughout.
sure. Hmm.
Yeah. It's definitely a great connection to have, especially. But you're very powerful at leveraging contacts in that manner.
Mm,
So what sort of gives you that this sort of idea or notion of how to say, yeah, this is definitely something I want to do right now. I definitely want to go down this route and say, I'm going to email her, you know, take up her offers and so on.
yeah, I think it's mostly just all about taking chances. Honestly, it's maybe I take too many chances because like blue sky solar. So you hear about all the good parts that I've told you, but like I was part of like EWB for a couple weeks, Formula One for like a week. I think I did like a toboggan design team for a little bit too, and all of those ended spectacularly, like horribly for me. They
Yeah.
were really boring. I didn't want to do it, and eventually I had to. I just gave up pretty much on those kind of things. And it took me so many shots to kind of build this story that I'm telling you, but I
Hmm.
can't tell you the amount of like failures and
Well,
not good
no,
experiences that
no,
happened.
it's very important that you have these failures too, right? Because
For
that's
sure,
part
yeah.
of who you are. It's an experience that you live, and you're like, okay, concrete canoes are nice, but I don't want to make them.
Yeah, pretty much, exactly. And just as I shot so many shots out there that eventually I have this really nice pattern unfolding, and
Hmm.
like I can leverage these past good experiences and then multiply
Yeah, it's kind of like a Monte Carlo approach to life, isn't it?
them. Oh, yeah, for sure, man. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's definitely good. The reason I sort of want to talk about this is because a lot of people tend to have reservations or fears about taking risks and taking chances. Uh, what are some tips that you can say that will sort of convince people, or rather trick them into taking these chances and going out there? What
Yeah.
yeah, what sort of motivates you to go into these things?
I think I've always honestly always liked taking risks. I remember back back in high school, like I wanted to be a rapper. I swear to you,
You
like
wanted to be a rapper? Oh my!
for sure, yeah, yeah. Like that was like unironically, I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. And I used to do really stupid stuff. Like I think one of my like not teachers offered me like extra marks, so I rapped in front of the class. So I did it. I hosted a talent show. I rapped there too. I think I think if you have a passion and you're really sure what you want to do, you don't have to trick yourself into taking risks. You'll want to take those risks for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
You
But it's
know,
also the case that a lot of people don't actually have or aren't really as passionate for things.
yeah.
And in my opinion, this yeah,
Mhm.
like it might be because they don't actually explore the surface as much or explore things as much, so they don't have an idea of what things are like.
Mhm. For
But
sure.
do you have any tips on how to sort of put yourself out there or move yourself forward or
I think a lot of it is the mindset too, and I think you got to be very humble when you do take risks.
hmm
Um, you got to really you got to really convince yourself that anyone that's willing to take a chance on you is there to help you in some sort of way. Like honestly, like no one. If you join IEEE, No one's going to be like, oh, he's so stupid, he can't design a poster. No, they want to help you reach that point. You know what I mean? So I think you've just got to see the good in other people that are offering these chances and capitalize on that.
Yeah, I have this saying, you can never learn somebody who you don't respect. So
Mhm.
that's why I respect immensely all of my professors. It's just by default. Or else I wouldn't be able to do their courses at all. I'd be like, oh
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. Yeah. I think,
imaginary numbers, they don't even exist.
yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, you've got to have that respect. That's so important.
So let's talk about a bit of tips for academic success.
Hmm.
Do you have any tips?
I'm probably not the right person to ask for this.
That's
I'm not.
fair.
I'm honestly not the greatest student in the world. Probably not even good by any measure. But
Well, okay, then we can change the question up a little bit, right?
yep, yep,
Um, and I don't mean to offend you or anything. I'm assuming that we've all gotten bad marks before, right?
yeah, yeah,
But
for sure.
how are you able to sort of, pick it up and brush yourself off,
Yeah, for sure. I think that those 4 months in EngSci taught me so much about how to learn. When you get smacked to the ground so many times, you just kind of pick it up. But I think school really changed for me when I really was interested in the topic.
Hmm.
Um, I like marks are cool, but at the end of the day, like numbers don't really make me happy. It's more about the learning behind it. So no matter what I do, like I don't let the marks get to me at all. I really try to see like the beauty in every subject. I tried to learn.
Yeah, just focusing on the actual material itself.
Yeah, it is cliche for sure. Everyone
Yeah.
says to do that, but there's a difference between people telling you and you actively practicing it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So that being said, you're very much a multifaceted person. As I believe that all engineers should be multifaceted to some extent, a lot of my mentors actually play the guitar, write songs and things like that, but
Mhm.
you write poetry and you write raps. So tell me a bit about that.
I think it honestly comes from like my love of like English and like language. Actually, if it wasn't engineering, I was dead set on being an English major myself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was either engineering or English, and I
Nothing
took.
in between.
Yeah, exactly. They're very when I tell people that, they're really weirded out. They're like, "Oh, don't engineers hate to like communicate or whatever they say?" Um,
Yeah, engineers can't spell.
yeah, exactly. But no, I love reading, and the whole rap thing was honestly just like a pipe dream I had because I thought rappers are really cool. I mean, I still listen to rap a lot. I love Kanye, my favorite
Yeah.
artist of all time.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm a huge fan of Tyler and
oh, same. Yeah, I love Tyler the Creator.
he's very
Yeah,
creative with his lyrics, so
yeah. We should talk about that sometime. Honestly, I'm a huge fan of his work. But as I grew up and matured, realizing rap wasn't a real
well,
a real career.
I mean, you can always have these side projects where you sort of develop these raps on the side and maybe put them on SoundCloud somewhere that somebody might listen to eventually. But
Yeah, honestly, I've kind of not done that for a long time. I don't intend to. But my interest in English have shifted to more writing, and
mhm.
I'm pretty voracious reader. I read a lot of books whenever I get the chance, and yeah,
Is
that's
that so? Is that sort of like an outlet for you, reading, or
for sure. I think reading really draws some inspiration for me. I don't know if you've read it, but Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, who is actually from my fraternity, by the way. He's the founder of Nike.
oh, really?
I, yeah. I read that book last summer, and that really piqued my interest in entrepreneurship. Something I'm also interested in, and really inspired me to in my work ethic.
Hmm. It's definitely good. Yeah, you can get lots of great things from books. I mean, of course, I'm speaking very generally. Books are a medium form of communication.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
nowadays, people are moving away from books a lot more and moving towards more interactive forms like video or even games to express their stories or ideas. But do you think that books will always be around? There'll always be a place for them?
Oh yes, 100%. Like I cannot read anything digitally on a tablet. I have to have a book in my hand when I read it. And
Hmm.
it's just looking back in history how important books have been in general, like the medium, writing, physical. I don't think anything will ever replace that.
Hmm. What do you think's most important about the book compared to other forms?
Um, for me, it's a sense of nostalgia. I think a lot of people have this growing up reading their favorite books. You don't get the same feeling when you read something online. You feel like it's not human in a way, even though books aren't human themselves. Reading stuff online, I don't know if it makes sense, but it's almost like the medium's too perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But books it's just a whole nother world for me. I can really escape in them.
Yeah, definitely. I've heard lots of arguments saying that books offer more levels of abstraction because they describe less, so your mind is able to fill in the gaps. And
Mm,
with
yeah.
other mediums, people are so focused on increasing the fidelity of things, improving graphics to the point where, it's almost realistic. But if it's almost realistic, then it kind of loses some of its flavor, you know?
Oh yeah, even video games in that sense. Like I much prefer the older video games into the new graphics they're putting out nowadays. But yeah.
Yeah. I
Mm.
do enjoy an abstract character occasionally, like
Oh yeah.
Sonic or Mario, but
Yep.
I especially enjoy it in times when they're able to leverage the tools that they have as opposed to just trying to go further and further. An example of this is like, have you ever heard of this game called The Last of Us?
Oh yeah, I just finished playing it.
Yeah, they focus a lot heavily on creating a very realistic character base,
Mm.
and that's not bad. That's perfectly fine. The way they use it is very good because it's very gritty and it's very
Mm.
down to earth, and they try to sort of connect with the player more.
Oh yeah.
But I think that to some extent it sort of limits the type of stories they can tell because it's so realistic.
Mm. Yeah, no, I see what you mean. But that's a very controversial opinion, honestly. Like a lot of people pride The Last of Us for the story it tells. I know the last one, like part two, wasn't received well, but
Well, I kind of like part two and part one. Part one was definitely a very concrete story.
Mhm.
I think part two wasn't as concrete. I think because there was so much anticipation up behind it,
For
because
sure.
part one was fantastic.
Yeah,
People were kind
exactly.
of let down and just sort of very emotional about it. But I still think the story was relatively fine. I don't see any major issues with it. But
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. So you just finished the first one or the second?
I just finished the first one, and
Oh,
I spoiled the second one for myself because that game is too expensive for me to buy anytime
yeah,
soon.
definitely. Especially
Yeah.
like with the new gaming console. I only went up to a PS3 and I
Oh,
stopped
okay.
there.
Oh, see, I went one further, PS4, but I'm stopping now.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, that's another outlet that could potentially be a form of creativity too, playing video games. And a lot of my peers play League, but I find that games nowadays take a bit too much time, and I feel bad about playing them afterwards.
Oh yeah, that's something. The magic behind gaming is something I've questioned. I used to like be addicted, like love playing them, but now I just feel like they're kind of a waste of time for me too.
Hmm. It's just in the moment it feels good. It's like lots of chemicals going on, but
Yeah, yeah,
it's like you don't develop new skills, you don't become a better person. Maybe you could become better at the game, but it's not
exactly. You feel yeah, you
it's
feel like
not
it's
very
just
yeah,
it's
it's not
never
very
gonna. Yeah.
sorry, I'll let you
Oh
go.
no, no, you never feel like you're improving yourself, and
Yeah. It's also not very good bar conversation talk to say, "Hey, listen, I'm plat 5 in League." Like nobody's
oh
gonna care.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
oh
I think
yeah.
there's like one bar in China that'll let you have drinks for free, but I'm not in China, so
Really, that's crazy. I mean, EC Common Room that's a great flex if you ever wanna.
that was like 2 seasons ago. But yeah, so let's change topics a little bit. Let's talk about sort of like life in general and sort of what is your biggest fear? And we can break this up into different groups, right? We can focus on academia or industry, or just
Mm,
life in general. So, what is your
yeah,
biggest fear?
I know this might be very controversial, but honestly, I know a lot of people are like aiming to work at like Amazon, Microsoft, those big companies.
Hmm.
But my biggest fear is ending up in one of those companies for the rest of my life. Honestly, because like, like I only have so much time like alive, and if I
Yeah.
spend it all working for like one part of Google's project, I'm sorry, but I don't think that's a very meaningful life to me, at least. It might be meaningful for someone else.
Yeah, definitely. So, following off from that, you want to make sure that whatever you develop is something that's going to have a higher impact, or are you just afraid of just being one cog in a larger machine?
Honestly, both. I think the first thing you said, having impact, stems from, I don't want to be a cog in the machine. I want to make something that's meaningful and impacts people.
Definitely. Yeah. You want to leave a sort of legacy as opposed to just being part of Microsoft. And
Oh,
being
yep.
consumed. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I say Microsoft, but I mean
Mhm.
Amazon, any of the big tech
Yeah.
companies.
I don't know if I should be saying that as a Microsoft student partner, but that is how I feel, honestly.
Don't worry, I won't send this to them. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I find that kind of interesting too. But and like personally, I wouldn't want to work in a large tech company for too long. At
Mhm.
most, I want to spend 5 years there and develop an income so I can do my own thing on like that I actually enjoy, basically.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
That's always the dream.
Hmm.
But yeah, you definitely have that entrepreneurial spirit. So, do you have any business plans in mind, or?
Yeah, I spent a large part of second semester developing my own startup. So we applied to the hatchery, and that's what I'm doing this summer. Just working full time on the startup that I'm developing with three very close friends, all who transferred into ECE the same time I did. So yeah,
Yeah, very similar story. Can connect with them pretty well.
for sure. Yeah, that's a big part of it. Yeah.
Uh, if you feel at liberty to say, could you talk a bit about the project?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So we're working on the biggest problem that cybersecurity is facing. That's something called business email compromise. And
Hmm.
business email compromise is when a high-level executive, say a CEO, is impersonated or their email account is hacked into, and they send requests to lower-level employees, often employees who control strict financial regulations, and they trick them into sending wire transfers to uh, to the hacker themselves. So it seems like you'd have to be stupid to do that, but it is the biggest crime, cyber crime that's being committed, and 40% of all losses have been because of this.
Yeah, I actually at my company that I'm working at,
Mhm.
interning at right now, there was a fake email
Yep.
sent impersonating the CEO to one of the business members. So
Mhm.
that's definitely like huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely like
Everyone. No, everyone
so.
I've talked to has the same story. Yeah.
Yeah. In your case, have you? There's a huge psychological component, and have you
Mhm.
explored that to some
That
capacity
is
within your solution?
exactly what we're doing, actually. Essentially, we realize that traditional email security solutions, all they look at is for viruses and volumetric attributes. So, how many times email is being sent out in a similar format. What we're trying to do is we're looking at the social engineering that takes place. And essentially, what's happening is that someone is being impersonated by someone else, right? So, we're looking at the innate, cognitive linguistic style of writing that people have, and we're trying to create linguistic fingerprints. So we're analyzing huge chunks of text. We're creating a fingerprint for a specific person. So if an email comes in, we can identify whether or not that is an email they actually wrote, regardless of who they're saying they are.
Hmm. That's definitely a very interesting topic. Like you're creating some kind of inferencing algorithm that's able to determine whether or not is this likely my boss or is this some random guy
Yep.
impersonating him. That's
Yep.
very
Exactly. Yeah.
cool. Very cool. So are you well, I mean, of course your startups in the early stages of developing a solution to the problem, but
Mm-hmm.
based on your solution, are you worried that they might use that in reverse essentially?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It really depends on how sophisticated our solution is. But the dream for us is creating a system that really taps into the unconscious part of your writing. And like new advances in natural language processing and machine learning are letting us do this. So sentiment analysis is a huge new field, and
Hmm.
we've never been able to extract emotion from words before, but now that we can, we want to see if we can apply this to our fingerprinting system.
Hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
It could also be used in the other direction. That's the sort of question I was
Yeah.
posing towards.
Oh, I see what you mean. That is true. Honestly, you could create an algorithm that would help you write like your boss, but
I
let's
guess
hope that.
there is some other solutions and workarounds, but it's just going to be a huge cat and mouse game at this point. So
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure, for sure.
we'll sort of see how that pans out. But that's definitely some very cool stuff. How did you come up with the idea for it?
So that wasn't the first idea that we spent when we first got to the hatchery. We had a completely different idea. It was still in security, but it was trying to find instances of credit card fraud, and we realized that it like the compliance issue behind working with banks is one that we couldn't get past at all. No one would talk to us, especially when COVID hit. No one would talk to us at all. Um, so we talked with our mentors and we pitched a really stupid idea. It was pretty much a personal financial management app. And the good thing about having those mentors is they tell you to your face, like, this is stupid. No one's going to buy this. It's
Well,
not.
it's also that that already exists to some capacity, and everybody's trying to
Exactly.
jump on the bandwagon too. Like all the different banks are trying to copy Wealthsimple, and
Exactly right. So they told us to really dig deep and to find an area where there aren't too many competitors, and a space that is relatively new. And
Mhm.
what we had to do is we had 4 guys on our team. We spent, I think it was a solid week. I think it was like 10 hours a day just Googling, researching papers and areas. We came up with, I think, 20 different ideas, and slowly one by one we chopped them down to this one that we have right now. And the thing is, when we first started developing the problem, we didn't have a solution. We were just looking for a valid problem, and that alone
Mhm.
took us half a month to come up with.
Wow, lots of work went into actually finding that nice space that you're in right now.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. I do have some peers who went into the hatchery for different
Mhm.
projects, but they, for the most part, they didn't really go anywhere, either due
Mhm.
to team conflicts or existing solutions in the fields that they're in. But it's very good to see that through hard work and research, you're able to find problems that are actually feasible.
Mhm.
Uh, it's very, very cool. So, have you ever considered potentially internships?
Mhm. Yeah, no, of course. I definitely do want to do an internship for sure. But again, I want to do one at a startup with a team that really showed me the process behind creating something from
Hmm.
scratch. Because even though I've been learning a lot this summer, I know there's a whole new like ball game out there that I want to be a part of.
Okay. Part of the reason I ask is because as you're working this project for the hatchery,
Hmm.
you may have to give up part of that. You may have to give up your baby, is what I'm saying.
Yep,
Does
yep.
that concern you?
No, I don't think. I think there's a difference between like an entrepreneur and an inventor. I think an inventor is, yeah, they're super, super committed to that one idea that they have. But I think an
Hmm.
entrepreneur is just trying to find some way to impact people. And I'm not, I'm not saying that this startup I have is going to work, or I don't really expect it to be huge or anything. It's a learning experience for me for sure. And I'm just going to keep trying with new ideas until I can find something that really works out and impacts as many people as possible.
Hmm. Hmm. That's very fair. So, regarding internships, and sorry to jump back and forth, but
No, no, yeah.
the sort of internship you're looking for, you want to be in a sort of startup? Is that what you're saying?
I think so. It's either a startup or just a really tight knit team with
Hmm.
a mentor who can teach me how to develop out full scale software solutions.
Okay. So could you walk me through the sort of reason why we would prefer to have a startup, say?
Hmm. Well,
Because I
I
know
think
there's tons of people going for Google and
mhm.
Uber and stuff like that, but
Yeah. Honestly, like like it's a hard question to answer for sure. But for me, because I do want to I'm very committed to creating a startup or working for a very small one. And I think for me, I want to see the process behind that. And, the only way that I'm ever going to be able to see that is if I intern at one. So that's my
Mhm.
sole reason for really, really gunning for a startup position.
Yeah, because you really get the full experience. You sort
Mhm.
of understand what startups go through, or at least this time snippet of this particular startup.
Yeah, for
You get
sure.
a feel for what's going on. That's fair. Very fair. That being said, have you ever considered research?
Oh yeah, honestly, like I never until now, because I thought research was very, very close to like academia, and like I didn't want to be doing courses for the rest of my life.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
but I'm seeing the value in it now. I'm not gonna lie. Like a big part of our solution for our startup was machine learning, and linguistic processing is a relatively new field in terms of machine learning. So what we have to do is we have to read through a lot of research papers, and they've been the coolest things to read ever. And I realized that if you really want to be an expert in something, like that PhD is like a golden ticket to that.
Hmm.
So I've definitely considered research for sure. I don't know if my grades are there yet, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It can be sometimes kind of daunting. I mean, there's this whole the stereotype of the starving professor, right?
Oh
So,
yeah.
I mean, but nowadays there's so much integration between industry and research that it's almost indistinguishable in certain cases. But it's very clear that you have a good idea of where you want to go and a sort of goal and mindset. So how do you go about preparing yourself or knowing which routes to take through life and sort of saying what comes next, right? Like this hatchery thing was something that you decided to do with your friends, obviously.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Deciding where to go to life, it's a very big question for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak for everyone, but for me, it's literally things that I'm curious about. I'll attack and see where it goes. And again, I think it's about, for me at least, casting out a huge wide net, and then getting some of those successes, and then just finding your bliss, and then seeing where that will take you. Seeing where that will take you.
Definitely. Casting a huge net, hoping for the best, seeing what you catch. That's fair. So, and this is like the classical question: where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh, 5 years. Yeah, I mean, man, that answer has changed so many times. Like in high school, I wanted to be like a doctor for a while, rapper. Like,
Yeah.
At this point, I've really stopped looking that far in the future. Not saying that 5 years is a long time, but I want to see myself at least, living out what I'm saying today, in the fact that I want to, at minimum, be working for a startup, and don't want to sell my soul to a big company. That's my goal.
Yeah, just those key principles that you want to stand by.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a bit unfair for me to ask, especially considering that things change so rapidly in 5 years. Like, IoT is slowly starting to die down a tiny bit, but 5 years ago was all the rage.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But it's also like you invest so much time thinking about the future that you forget what's in the present, right? You spend all these resources, and this is just like a chess program, right? With the look ahead effects or the look ahead algorithm. Spend all these resources, and then something doesn't happen. So
Yeah.
no, I think your statement is very fair, that you should be driven by goals and objectives and sort of principles as opposed to exact things that you want to occur.
For sure. I think you put it way better than me, but yeah.
No, I'm just summarizing exactly what you said. These are your thoughts. And if I ever summarize it incorrectly, just tell me, hey, listen, Martin, you're full of crap. That's not what I said.
It's all good, man. But I will take that advice.
Absolutely. I mean, this may be my podcast, but the guest has full control because we want to listen to you. So, aside from that, do you have any sort of troubles or worries in the future, like going forward?
Troubles or worries?
Yeah, once again, very general, but we can narrow it down to academia, industry, or whichever grouping you want.
Yeah, honestly, one of the big worries I've had is honestly like grad school. Now that I've seen what cutting edge research is offering, I'm kind of worried that will my grades in first year hold me back from like grad school, and you can't go back and change those grades, and at the same time you don't know like how big of an impact they'll have. It's not that like a life-changing worry, but it's a worry that I've had.
Definitely. I do know that a couple of professors actually do consider your personal projects and cases, especially if they're related to the actual research. So if you're interested in machine learning and you have a bunch of machine learning projects under your belt, it's not going to hurt. But yeah, have you considered any professors potentially that you are interested in reaching out to?
Honestly, not at the moment. I've never been that great at connecting with my professors. I still see them as like gods to me. But I think Deepa Kunder's done a lot of good research in cybersecurity. She's like a world leading authority at this point. And I've had a few chances to talk to her just at university, and she'd be like a dream to like research under for sure.
It's also a benefit that you're in ECE, and she's
Yeah,
also currently the president, or I believe chair of ECE.
yeah. She's transferred out with me. She was at EngSci chair when I was EngSci. Went to ECE after. Yeah.
Quite convenient, actually.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go a couple steps back and go to the very beginning of the story with you, Gaurav. So why UofT? I mean, we have Waterloo, we have Queen's, we have McMaster if you're feeling adventurous. We have a bunch of great universities in Ontario, but why UofT in particular?
No, it's honestly because I didn't get into Waterloo. That is the real unfiltered answer.
What would you be doing in Waterloo? Software?
Mechatronics, actually.
Mechatronics. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, that was the dream in high school. Like I was obsessed with getting into like Waterloo Mechatronics, like mostly for the co-op, and it seemed like such an Iron Man like discipline.
Yeah, yeah.
But I had the grades for sure. I think I don't know if it was luck or whatever, but I didn't make it to that program. And looking back at it, like I don't have any regrets. I was bummed out back then. It was a huge defeat in my eyes. But looking right now, like all the experience I've had at U of T, they've been invaluable.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I wouldn't give it up.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, like, I feel like that might be the case for a lot of schools in Brampton and Mississauga.
Yeah.
My school, I went to the Woodlands High School, which was one of the few enhanced learning programs within the area. But all of my peers, the majority of them, went to Waterloo.
Same. Yeah.
There's only like 2 people who came into U of T, and they were both in the same program as me. So it's quite interesting.
Oh wow, both EngScis? For me, I was the only one that went to U of T Eng in my school. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is a lot of pressure, definitely, because like your friends are going to go there. And it sounds really great and cool and all, and you get the co-op program, but when you take a step back and realize exactly what's going on, and like as a child in high school, it's not your fault because you don't know that, you don't have the perspective, you never actually had a job.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, looking back, I definitely pick U of T every single time. I did apply to Waterloo, by the way. Biomedical engineering, I did not get in. My second was chemistry, and I was not interested in that. So U of T for me.
Yeah. I think we have the same thing then. Did you get that offer for chemistry or?
I got the offer for, it was chemical engineering. I did get that offer.
Oh, okay.
But I was like,
I'm
not looking to get cancer right now.
Yeah, those descriptions they give you on like OUAC really aren't enough. You gotta do your due diligence.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're coming to a close for our time, Gaurav. So is there a couple of last words or things you want to sort of say to the viewers that you want them to carry around or know for the future? Any tips, any particular ideologies or anything that you want to convey forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that really, when I was appointed chair of IEEE or whatever, I think I was really scared of what I was getting myself into. Like some past chairs have just been like, come on, man, like Kevin Zhang, like even Yen, like they're super cool people, and like they have some huge accomplishments for sure. And I guess that imposter syndrome you mentioned at the beginning really kicked in. And I was talking to one of my friends. He was the YNCN president last year. He told me, I told him like, hey, I'm not sure about this. Life's moving really fast. He told me, when life moves fast, you gotta start running. So yeah, just face your challenges head on. Don't look back, and have fun while you're at it.
And that concludes our episode of the Professional Interpersonal Development Podcast for this week. Stay tuned for our next coming episode, where we'll be focusing on a mini-series centered around the engineering science robotics option. Special thanks to Sujay Kumar, also known as Noise Yaga Beats, for the music provided.